And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Kate Rose, Galactic historian, CE5 contact facilitator, certified death doula, hospice volunteer, and end-of-life Reiki practitioner. Kate, thanks for joining me and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Very happy to be here. Very honored.
Well, we are happy to have you. And if you don't mind, can we start with how did this passion for ET contact begin?
Yes, absolutely. So my passion for ET contact work began actually around my spiritual awakening. I had my spiritual awakening in May of 2020. So a lot of people kind of had an awakening during that lockdown period. And I had my awakening on ayahuasca, and I was really being guided to wake up. I was a South Florida party girl bartender for about 15 years, and I just realized that I couldn't live that lifestyle anymore. Like I couldn't do it. I felt like it's just such a higher calling. And I heard about ayahuasca, did my first ceremony. My intention was to wake up, and I felt this calling, but I didn't really know what it was because I considered myself atheist at the time. And I went to ceremony, I had an awakening, and it was a very kind of heaven on earth experience. I felt like everything turned like a beautiful purple, and I felt so much love and peace that no human being can really give to another person. And I saw everyone was in their journey. And then I saw my mom, who was sick my whole life, running through a field of flowers, and she was just happy and healthy. And I had my awakening on Mother's Day of 2020. And after that experience, I really was wondering, like, where did I go? What was it that I experienced? And so my path began, and I started to do a lot of research on, I was like, maybe I died, or maybe it was kind of like an afterlife experience or whatnot. But when you look into those types of worlds and different realities, ET kind of work just kind of coincides, like they really just blend together. So as I was doing research on death in the afterlife, a lot of like ET stuff came up. And I really felt the calling to create a type of group. And my calling began actually after another ceremony that I did. And this time, this was a psilocybin ceremony. And it was such a profound experience where I found myself on board a ship. And whenever I have these visions, it's almost like I'm a fly on the wall watching the scene unfold. And so as this was happening, I found myself on board a ship, and it was pretty white on the inside. There was a giant big window that was kind of like looking out into the universe. And my hands were on a circular railing platform. And so my hands were on this railing, and in the middle of this platform was where holograms would pop up. And so a hologram version of Earth popped up. And so I'm standing there, and in this vision I was a man in kind of like a brown robe. And it took me about 3 months after I had this vision to realize I was on board a ship, because the feelings that I had during this vision were so like, I never felt so much sadness in my entire life, and that sadness carried over for months, that it took me a while to realize like I was on board a ship and that man was me. So I'm holding onto this railing, and the hologram of Earth pops up, and I just feel so much sadness. Like I've never in my life felt this much sadness in my entire life. And I see a hologram of two people come together, and they start ripping each other apart. Another hologram of two people come together, and they're ripping each other apart. And this happens over and over and over again. And I'm watching as humanity is constantly destroying itself. And my heart is just completely shattered and broken. And I've realized that the human experiment isn't working. Like, no matter what we try to do, the humans are only going to continue to destroy themselves. So at that moment, I decided I was no longer going to partake in the human experiment. Like, the human experiment was going to be over. So I was going to turn my back on Earth. I was going to turn my back on humanity and the planet. And now I am back to be kind of being like that fly on the wall, and I'm watching this scene unfold, and I'm ripping onto the ground and onto the grass, and I'm like, please no, like, please don't turn your back on humanity. Like, it was such a real experience. I felt like if this being turned his back on humanity, like everything was gonna be over. Like, we were just gonna cease to exist. I thought, and for sure in that moment, I was gonna cease to exist. So all of a sudden, my consciousness goes back into this being, and I'm turning my back on humanity. But before I fully do, something catches the corner of my eye. So I stop and I turn around, and all of a sudden, this room appears, and it's a pitch black room with only a single little tiny wooden table and just one candle on it. And the candle is just like flickering like this. And I'm just like looking at it and I'm like, what on earth is going on? And so I walk over to this room, and all of a sudden I look on the floor, and there's Mother Earth, pregnant with Earth in her belly. And she's in the fetal position on the floor, and she's dying. And all of a sudden, like, my consciousness becomes Gaia, becomes Mother Earth. So I'm in the fetal position on the floor, pregnant with Earth in my belly, and I'm dying. I am so weak and so destroyed. And all of a sudden, someone comes and like lifts my head up and gives me a sip of water. Another person comes up and they're feeding me bread. Another person comes up and they put a blanket over me. And these lines of people are continuing to come up, and they're trying to help me. My consciousness then goes back into the being that is watching the scene unfold. And he's watching as humanity, there's humans that are actually that they're making sure that Earth, that our mother is okay. And in that moment, he discovered hope, and he realized that there was hope for humanity. So he decided to give humanity one more chance. And so, but in order for him to give humanity one more chance, he decided to come back to Earth. Like, he felt like he needed to be boots on the ground, like, helping to assist in this evolution and saving of our planet. So my consciousness, as it was returned to that being, I felt like it was me, and I volunteered to come here. And there was other beings in the background. I can't picture like a face to these beings, don't really come to mind. But there was a group of beings, and they thought I was like bat crazy for wanting to come to Earth. But I felt like it was my duty to come here to help assist. And so I decided to incarnate, in which that moment I know I had a walk-in experience, because I went from being a South Florida party girl bartender my whole life, just drinking, partying, just kind of having that lifestyle, to becoming sober. I run a sober group where I've organized over 100 sober events in the community. I started volunteering for hospice. I became like really passionate in end of life care. And it's like now I have a CE5 contact group with over 500 members. I've been doing monthly CE5s for every month for over 2 years now. And it's like my life changed so drastically, so quickly after I had that walk-in experience, to where like even all my social media friends, like, it was such a shock to them how quickly I transformed into who I am today. And I tell people when I call it my past life. It's very hard for me to um, have anything in common with the person that I used to be, because I feel like that wasn't me. And the people that I hung out with back then, I don't hang out with anymore. I have no real connection with them. So I know I had that walk-in experience, and a lot of people think that, um, a walk-in experience is a complete switching of souls, which usually it is because we have so many different versions of our souls out there, different realities or whatnot. So I believe that was a that person on board a ship was another aspect of myself. I believe maybe it was a future aspect of myself that chose to, by contract, to come into my body. Other walk-in experiences, though rare, if say somebody was contemplating suicide or if they were extremely depressed, then there could be a soul contract where that soul would actually leave that vessel and contractually they would allow another soul to come in and continue that journey. So there's a couple of different types of walk-in experiences, but I feel strongly that that vision was a walk-in experience. I can't explain anything else of why my life changed so drastically after that. But I just felt this desire to immediately start contact groups. And I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. And I still, to this day, I try every month to kind of do something different with my groups. And I tell people like I feel like contact work is extremely important. And to if you have passion for, our ET family, if you want to get more connected or just get more involved, I use the Meetup app, which is great, and I highly recommend that to a lot of people. And I tell people just start your own groups. Like here in Florida, like we didn't really have any like contact groups here. And so what I usually do in my events is I will do like a pre-contact chat. We'll meet at kind of like a coffee shop and we'll meet there for like 2 hours. It's a great way for the members to meet one another and to share their contact experiences. I call them truth-spiracy theories. And so, it's a really good way for people to connect. And then we'll go down the street to the beach, St. Pete Beach, and we will be out there from like 9 to midnight. We'll do like a meditation and then we just, we try to make contact and stargaze and whatnot. But it's just a really fun time. Um, I recently, due to the recent hurricanes, the beaches have kind of been closed. So I've just been doing my contact chats, but the last 2 months I decided to make them like craft events. So 2 months ago, I had a tinfoil hat making party. And then this month we had a UFO craft making party where we made like little UFOs out of paper plates. And then next month we're going to do make our own like alien t-shirts. But a lot of people really appreciate this because so many people have had experiences or have seen stuff that they couldn't explain. And to find a group where they feel comfortable in sharing these experiences, and a lot of people have said that they've never once shared what they've seen or experienced ever with anyone else because they didn't think anyone would understand or they were afraid of how they were going to be perceived. So I know this group is important, and I'm just very excited to see where it goes, and I'm hoping to expand, and I would love to eventually like travel to all the sacred sites and host these contact events. I think they would be wonderful.
Did the old Jew have any interest in sci-fi or UFOs or anything like that?
Not at all. So the old me, I basically like I grew up like Catholic and I just went to like didn't really go to church, but I did the whole communion and confirmation. My family, we weren't really religious. We kind of just did it. They like to keep me busy. I was in Girl Scouts, I was in sports. Like my parents kept me busy at all costs, which I really appreciate them doing. Kept me out of trouble until I got to my drinking days. But um I never really watched sci-fi. If somebody asked me if I believed in God, I was like, I didn't think I even believed in God. If somebody asked if we were alone in the universe, like they were such big questions for me that like I just didn't want to answer it. And the old me, I was extremely terrified of death. So now I'm a certified death doula and I volunteer for hospice and do all these things. And it's like, oh my gosh, like what on earth was I afraid of? And so it was two completely different lives.
Did making CE5 contact come to you intuitively, or did you have to train in some sort of manner?
It came to me intuitively, so I started feeling like a nudge because I told you like it took me like maybe 3 or 4 months after I had that experience on board a ship because that sadness was so overwhelming. All I can really focus on was just, the vision of humanity kind of tearing each other apart and like just that dense sadness. And then I was like talking to a friend one day. We went out to get something to eat, and I was telling him about this experience. And I was like, wait a minute, I was on board a ship and there was other beings there. Like it just clicked. Like I couldn't believe it took so long for it to click. But when it did, I really started to kind of do more research on our galactic heritage and everything like this. But the CE5s, that was just something like when I was learning about it, when I heard about it, I was like, I think this is something I need to do. And that nudging, was like it just wouldn't go away. So I was like, really, this one week in particular, I was like, I think I need think I need to start a CE5 group. And I didn't really know where to begin. Um, and my friend Rachel was visiting from out of town, and we did a little drive down to South Florida. So we had like a 4 hour drive, and we stopped at her aunt's house, like 2 hours away. And her aunt started telling me about a contact experience that she had. My friend Rachel was like, whoa, my aunt has never spoken like this before. Like, she never talks, like, I can't believe like she's opening up to you about this. Then we went to eat at a restaurant down in South Florida, and our server had his uniform. I guess he got it custom made for himself, but it had an alien head on it and whatnot. And then he started talking to me about his contact experience. This 1 week little trip, so many people opened up to me without me asking about their contact experience. So I looked at that as a sign. Like, I was like, okay, I hear you guys. I need to create a group. So on my way back home, I stopped at a Wawa gas station and I went on the Meetup app because I was already doing stuff with my sober group on there. It's called CE5 Let's Make Contact. That's the name of my group. And I created the group sitting outside a Wawa and hosted it and created my first event. And when it came time to do my first event, I just winged it. And I just found like I did like the Stephen Greer, he has like his own contact app and stuff. So I like did that for a little bit. And then as they started to progress, I felt like, spirit or the beings, they wanted me to incorporate like music, kind of make it fun. I play a lot of Native American music. Native American rituals are extremely important in contact work. So Native American music is very, very powerful. And a lot of my members love listening to it out there because we're on the beach at night. And just that alone is just a beautiful experience for a lot of people. Um, but yeah, it just kind of came to me intuitively and I just listened. And now it's been over 2 years doing it every month. And I've had hundreds of people come to my events and it's helped a lot of people. It's helped to build community that I think we desperately need in this type of area.
Do you make contact every time?
So I tell people like when we go out there, because some people are just, maybe they've never seen anything before. A lot of people now, especially now that all this disclosure is coming out, I have a lot of people that are just curious. Like they just want to know if they're real. Um, so I tell people that contact can be made for just one person. So, for example, there was one event, it was like my fourth event. And this is when I knew at this specific event that this group was going to be important. So, we were in the meditation. This one guy showed up. It was his first time there, and he saw it on the Nextdoor app. And he showed up. We're in meditation. We all have our eyes closed. And because we were doing it on like Treasure Island Beach, there's like kind of a lot of tourists. So I kept opening up my eyes because I saw flashes, but it was just people taking pictures. So we were in meditation. I keep seeing like flashes, but I was like, oh, it's just tourists taking pictures. I'm not gonna like look too much into it. After the meditation, I asked people like, did anybody experience anything? Because people think contact is external, like it has to be, you have to witness it. when 99% of us, we've already had contact. A lot of contact actually happens in dream time. A lot of it happens in dream time because that's where we reach common ground. And but if you're going out there to just look at the stars and be like, I need to see you, show yourselves, chances are you're probably not going to experience much. But this one kid, when we were all in meditation, he said he saw a giant craft hovering over above the group. And he was like shaking when he was saying it. And he goes, I came here a skeptic, but I'm leaving a believer. And he goes, thank you. And that's when I was like, this is important. But that night, that contact, nobody else saw anything, but he did. So that was made for just him. And what a lot of people don't understand with contact too is it's a contact is a soul contract. So we've already determined the date, the time, the place that we're going to receive actual contact. So some people have to go, they have to like heal some karma that they came incarnated with first before they're able to open themselves to receive a type of a life-changing experience such as contact. So there's a lot of there's a lot of internal work that needs to be made first in order for contact to happen. But we see a lot of stuff out there. We've seen, I had a woman and her son, they went across the street. There was like a Waffle House across the street. She got him an ice cream. And as they were walking to join the group, she said they both saw a craft slide like this behind one of the hotels, and they came running to me. They're like, hey, Kate, you won't believe what we just saw. So they saw stuff that night. We've seen, we'll see orbs, and I tell people like the difference between what a satellite looks like and, because there's tons like of satellites up there. The difference, how to properly use like a laser pointer and whatnot, and just to have fun. The important thing is that people have fun out there. And but yeah, we see a lot of stuff. Everyone sees stuff differently than some people. There was one time we were actually leaving my event. I was talking with one of my members, and we both saw a giant ball of flashing light, but I saw it as green and he saw it as purple. So it's interesting, people's different perspective on contact. But yeah, we definitely see stuff out there. The Florida coasts are actually very active, very active.
What do you think the most important thing humanity should prepare for at this time, especially with contact?
Yeah, contact, I think it's coming. So whether people want to believe it or not, it's coming. So we need to prepare ourselves because it's going to shape our reality so drastically. But also with contact, people need to prepare for kind of the dirt that's starting to rise to the surface, the dirt that's been hidden under the rug for a really long time. And there's going to be realities and truths that are going to start to come out that it's going to be really hard for them to wrap their heads around. So now that the world is waking up, like, okay, we're not alone in the universe, I think UFOs are real. Most people believe that we're not alone in the universe. Most people do believe in UFOs. But most people, once they hear that there is a negative alien race that has been here for a very, very, very long time, that has been kind of controlling everything. Those are the types of truths that are going to be hard for people to swallow, but people really need to be prepared for that. And I would encourage people to not be afraid of that type of reality. And to kind of, like I tell my members, we are living in an age of misinformation. I volunteered at the Contact in the Desert event over a year ago. And the last day of that event was when the news finally released, I think the caption literally said, like, we are not alone in the universe. And it was the last day of the conference, and all the speakers were like, oh my gosh, the media finally did it. And everyone quickly like changed the topics of their talk, and they're like, what's next? So but I tell people, like, right after they release that, all of a sudden AI really kind of skyrockets. And now that we're really getting in the nitty-gritty of AI, we don't know what's real or not anymore. Since they said, oh, we're not alone in the universe, now videos come out. You don't know if that's a real UFO video. You don't know if that person talking on that video is real or AI made. You don't know anything. So we are living in an age of misinformation. So I tell my members, like, it is really important. Like, people now, for the first time in their lives, for the first time in generations, they have to make decisions for themselves. Discernment is so important right now. So I tell people you have to question everything. Even what I'm saying right now, question it and then research it. But look through books and articles. We can't even rely on our internet much anymore because everything is so monitored. Even a lot of AI, if I ask ChatGPT to ask if I mention anything about the word aliens, and it will say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I am not allowed to have that conversation." So it's like a lot of it is censored. A lot of AI is still censored. They still want us to, see what we need to see, and they want to try to make us believe what we want to believe. But humanity definitely needs to be prepared for the truth. They need to be prepared for contact. And I really do feel that humanity needs to have a different relationship with death, because death is like the number one thing besides like public speaking that people are afraid of. And these kind of negative beings that have been controlling our reality, they know that. They know that there's fear. That's why a lot of religions instill the fear of death, like you're going to go to hell or whatnot. But death is wonderful. And if people actually knew the truth about it, they would be able to live their lives and not in fear at all anymore. And that's what they're afraid of. So I feel like humanity, we really need to change the ways we view death. We really need to change the way that like religions are kind of structured, because that came about for control. A lot of religion is control. And yeah, we need to think for ourselves. We have to think for ourselves now. And we have to use discernment and to question everything.
Have the ETs given you any messages to pass along to humanity?
Yes. So there's a lot of like different knowledge that's out there, and I was like, I'm like trying to figure out what would be really good at this time to share. There's things, for example, like gold. Gold was a gift from God to our planet. It's the most precious substance in like the entire universe. Gold is very, very sacred, and it has the highest vibrational of any element on this planet. That is why like a lot of kind of like a lot of these beings, they want gold. Like, oh, the cost of gold is ridiculous right now. Like, sell your jewelry and everything like that, and we'll give you money for it. And basically what they're doing with the gold is they're they want to lower the vibration of the planet, because these beings, they don't want the planet to ascend. So a lot of them are shipping the gold off planet. But it's really important, like if you do have gold, I mean, I'm guilty. I've gone to pawn shops when I was in a financial mess and I've traded in gold. But if you do have gold, kind of cherish it. If you have a gold necklace or a gold ring or something, that is actually a very, very high vibrational piece of jewelry that you can have, and that can be a source of protection. Or, you can charge it, you can talk to it, it is a very sacred metal. So if anyone has gold, I mean, by all means, do what you need to do with it, but at least like save some for yourself, because it's very, very precious. Um, Another thing is that, for example, like the New Jersey drones, that's like been like a pretty big talk now. Those are actually Pleiadian ships. And what they are doing is, because these negative beings they've broken many, many, many laws in the universe. So one of the big laws in the universe was you can't interfere, which is why our star family has been hands off for a very long time. But ever since they started kind of crossing the line, these negative beings, it's been like, okay, like they have to go. Like we're allowed to interfere now. So the reason why there's been such a rise in UFO sightings is because these these ships are here to help us. So like those drones over New Jersey, those are Pleiadian ships. And what they're doing, and this is probably going to sound crazy, is there's a lot of reptilians that live underground. And what they are doing is they're kind of like the exterminators. So people don't realize, like when they see these ships, like, oh my God, what are they here for? Or, what if they're good or what if they're bad or whatnot? A lot of them are here to help us. When we talk about what's happening in the news, I actually try not to watch what's going on in the news. Like if it's on the media, I don't trust it, because there's going to be an agenda that the media wants us to see. Like, for example, I watched the congressional hearing on the UFOs that was like last month. And it was really interesting that the last guy that showed up late, his question, like the last question that was asked at that hearing was, should are these beings and crafts a direct threat to humanity? And they all went down the line. They said, yes, 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 yes. And so they are going to try to instill a narrative that makes us think that these ships are a direct threat to our national security or whatnot. And who knows what other, mind games that they're going to play. We don't know how this is going to play out. But those drones specifically, those were ships, and they are here to help us and get rid of the darkness. So we have so much help right here now. And we should just be very grateful whenever we see ships. And I would say also a few things that I think are just relevant about things that are happening. There is a new type of nefarious AI that is out there that can obviously read your mind, which is why we know that our cell phones, for example, they can pick up on what we're thinking. The algorithms are really spot on or whatnot. With my sober group, there is a rise in a sober movement going on right now. And what happens is I tell people alcohol is one of the most dangerous weapons that has been designed. Alcohol is a weapon that was designed to keep humanity asleep. And the Arabic word for alcohol, the alcohol, stands for body eating spirit. That's exactly what it means. So when you go to a liquor store, it's beer, wine, and spirits. So what the Arabics believed was that in every bottle lies a spirit. And when you open that bottle, it's a contract. You're giving permission for that spirit to enter your body and take your body for a joyride. I've been a bartender for like 18 years, and I've seen this all the time. Someone will be fine, and all of a sudden, once they're getting too intoxicated, you can tell kind of their spirit will leave their body, and then they're an empty vessel. So you'll see a person maybe at the bar and they're just kind of and then all of a sudden they'll get a burst of energy. So because they're an empty vessel, another being will come in, and that person that was basically sitting at the bar lifeless or whatnot, it's all of a sudden they get a burst of energy, and maybe they'll want to start fighting. Maybe you'll sleep with someone you never slept with. When people have blackouts, but they're still fully functioning, that's not you, that's an entity. It is literal entity possession. And when I became sober and started bartending, I wasn't when I started to know all of this, I made sure everyone had a water in front of them. I was really trying to kind of protect the space. And I was I don't want my customers because a lot of people don't cut people off, when they're too intoxicated. And that's, it's just horrible. The last thing I wanted to talk about, which is affecting a lot of people, is the whole gender identity thing, which I kind of wanted to make clear what's kind of happening with that is the darkness, the dark that controls our world. They're very smart. They've been here a very, very long time. They understand the wounds of humanity. One of our biggest wounds is abandonment, by the way. And so when people are in kind of a gender crisis and they feel like they were born in the wrong body, the reason for that is if a soul spent the last 7 incarnations as a woman, and their soul decided, okay, now it's time that I experience what it's like to be a man, then they chose to be a man in this lifetime, and it probably does not feel right to them. They just spent their last 7 incarnations, maybe 700 or so years as a woman, and now they're in a man's body, and they're freaking out. They're oh, maybe they'll start wearing women's clothing or hanging out with their, female friends or whatnot. And same with women. If women had many incarnations as a man, and all of a sudden now they're a woman, you might see that these people are, dressing like tomboys or whatnot. They're remembering, those are imprints from past lives that are imprinted on racism, for example, is really freaking stupid because we've been every single race on this planet. So if you see an African woman that loves having blonde hair, chances are she was a blonde in her past life and she just loves that. If you see a white person that loves having dreads, chances are they were an African person in their past life and they just love it, just makes them feel whole a lot. If you see a person that is obsessed with Japanese culture and they love anime and all that other stuff, they're picking up imprints from a past life, in Japan or whatnot. And so it's like all these things. But when you really start to know the truth and you ask questions about the truth of all these things, it all starts to make sense.
What can you tell us about our galactic history?
So our galactic history is very vast, and I think it's really important that people understand that a lot of the history that we have been told was a lie. Like for example, like the statues on Easter Island, those were like gifts to the Arcturians for when they came here to teach them healing. And a lot of the Syrians were a lot of like um, Anubis and Osiris and Isis, and those beings were here to bring us information on astronomy and medical advances, and like our whole history is from the stars. And that's why there's so many different races on Earth right now, is because we are a mixture of every race that is out there. And like I have these like little things that I was gonna like go into like our galactic history, but it might take too much time. But like for example, like when the Earth experiment, when everything started, it was because Source wanted to experience itself. And basically they're like people talk about like holographic, what's the term? Like realities. Some people don't know what that is. If I were to take a piece of paper and draw an eye on it and then rip it up into a bunch of different smaller pieces, and that every other of those small pieces had an eye on it, that's holographic reality. So Source is experiencing itself through so many different eyes. So when the universes were created, we have like the Andromedon galaxy, which is our feminine polarity, and then we have our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, which is a very masculine galaxy. And when our universe was created, our universe was designed that we cannot get to the light without first going through the darkness. It is physically impossible. So this whole universe is basically an experiment in free will and polarity. So when people are incarnated in this life and they are just having such a hard time and they just want to like ascend so quickly and they don't want to deal with the darkness, you have to go through the darkness. You cannot ascend without going through the darkness, and not in any planet in this entire universe. Like you have to go through that. And what's been happening is, I'll just go forward too with the human experiment, is a lot of people, there's some people in this life that have an easier life than others. And the average soul incarnates in a human body like 114 times. That's a lot of lifetimes to learn one lesson, maybe the lesson of sticking up for yourself. So what's happening is they decided to speed the human experiment up. And they, meaning a lot of our galactic family, and in which the Lyrans, the Syrians, and the Pleiadians, they were all working directly in the human genetic experiments here. So people are incarnating with multiple karmas at one time. So that's why some people have like, you might say to someone, man, Joey cannot catch a break. That guy has one bad thing happening to him all the time. He chose that. He chose to come here dealing with multiple karma at one time so that he doesn't really have to come back here anymore, And so basically the whole planet is experiencing multiple karma at one time, which is why there's so much chaos going on in the world right now. It's like Earth is gonna ascend with or without us, but it's really time that um, the truth about our galactic history comes about. And these are some of the public talks that I've been doing that I'm really passionate about. And it's a lot of information, but once you are able to, first of all, start asking questions, start thinking for yourself, start using discernment with everything that you come across, and the stuff that I have learned about that I'm passionate about with our galactic history, it's all stuff that ring very true to me. And I think that when people start to know, yeah, the truth about where they came from and why they are here, things will just begin to make sense. And then they'll be able to look at the life in this reality as just much more pleasant. They'll be able to really enjoy themselves and not give, um, we give ourselves a really hard time being here. But when you know the truth, life can actually be wonderful. And the goal is to have that heaven on earth reality. So once you learn the truth, we are getting closer and closer to that heaven on earth experience.
As a death doula, have you ever seen anybody have contact with ETs before they transitioned?
I actually had this one guy, and I really like telling his story because I thought it was pretty fascinating. He he was saying, and when I was talking to him, he was pretty clear-headed, and I thought he was a brilliant man. He was very well traveled. He had a lot of really successful businesses, and he had this like little tiny Filipino wife, and you can tell she was just like very worried about him. So she told me when I showed up for my visit that, oh, he has like, dementia. That's the thing. A lot of these families will say they have dementia because they're talking, oh, I see this person that died and this being showed up and whatnot. And I guess one day it scared her because he looked out the window and he said he saw like a monk, a priest, a rabbi, like all these religious spiritual figures standing out his window, and they were just all like kind of looking in and praying for him. And he told his wife, he's like, why did you send all those people here? She's like looking out the window, she's like, who are you talking about? But I asked him because I once they start telling me stuff like that, I'm like, oh, what else did you experience? So he told me he was once again, this guy was very brilliant, and he said that a being comes to visit him all the time to help him solve mathematical equations that he was never able to solve in this lifetime. So it's like, I feel like some people, they'll go through, um, if you're on your deathbed, but you have these things like unfinished business, that these entities and these beings will come and they'll help you, maybe solving this one math equation was one thing he worked on his entire life for. And now they don't want him to cross over, like, oh, I never finished that. So these people, yeah, these beings and stuff, they'll come over and, help solve unfinished business or math problems. I had one patient, he always plays like a card game with someone that's not there. And he's like, oh, I'm gonna get him next time. But these people their foot is in both worlds. They have a foot in this reality and they have a foot in the other reality. And we might not be able to see who he's playing, solitaire with or whatnot, but he is in full blown, he is fully seeing the person. He is at a table playing cards, having full communications with this other being. And a lot of these beings are here to take care of those people at the end of life, to make them not feel alone and whatnot. But I tell people that it's really important to have some type of belief system because religion has made people completely fear death. And like, oh, if you die, you're going to go to hell and all this other stuff. And because our souls and this universe, it's all about manifestation. We manifest our own reality, even on the other side. If you believe that a hell exists and you're on your deathbed and you feel like when you take your last breath, you're going to be in the fiery pits, you will manifest that reality for yourself. But what I tell people is if you find that reality, you can get yourself out of it. All you have to do is ask for help. And then your guides will come, like you'll get pulled up and and then your real work and stuff will begin in the halls of learning over on the other side. But even like people, they're like, oh, I think when I die, it's just gonna be pitch black. I'm like, oh my God, don't say that, because they'll manifest that reality for yourself. But people need to get in the habit, especially towards end of life. It's like, okay, if you can have any life you've ever desired on the other side, what would that look like? And just start really, okay, when I take my last breath, this is what it's going to look like. And I do death meditations in the community as well. And I really get people, I take people through like this, the last like 7 breaths of their life. But I get people to really like think about like who's going to be present, who, to grab your hand, or like who do you want to greet you on the other side? Who's gonna take care of, if you have pets, who's gonna take care of your pets? Somebody have a spare key to your house, like all these little things that people really need to be prepared for. And especially like their life review and whatnot. But yeah, I've been with hospice now for like a little over 2 years. I learned Reiki through hospice, like end of life Reiki through them. And it's been a wonderful experience. And yeah, I'm very passionate about death work as well as ET work.
After watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and ask you questions. Are you open to that?
Yes, absolutely. So if anybody wants to contact me, you can contact me at kate@healingfrombeyond.com, which I have over here, KATE. And I also do galactic card readings. So a lot of what I've talked about, I think it's a really important kind of reading that people, I just think it's really important because people don't understand their soul's true history. I can go really in depth of past lives you had on other planets, what you experienced in those past lives, the karma that you incarnated with from those past lives that are still affecting you at this time. I can bring forward messages from your guides. So I combine like a lot of life coaching. If people have lost a loved one, I can do like a mediumship reading as well through them during that session. If you have any ailments in your body, I can tune into your ailments because our soul speaks to us through our body. It's like if people have back pain, it's because something's holding you back in life. If people have shoulder and arm problems, it's because you're having trouble embracing or receiving love. If people have ear problems, they're not listening, to something. So our souls speak to us very literally. So in these readings, I really want to kind of answer a lot of people's questions that they might have in their life. But yeah, you can book a reading through me at healingfrombeyond.com. You can email me at kate@healingfrombeyond.com. And if anybody needs, a public speaker for anything, you can just email me as well. And I'll be more than happy to get in touch with all of you.
You're going to be involved with the Full Disclosure Now conference in 2025. What will you
Yes.
be doing there?
So I was a guest speaker last year, so I will most likely be a speaker again this year. My speaker or this year, during the summer, I spoke about entity attachments and removal. So I would love to really talk about this year about our galactic history and cosmic karma. I think it's really, really important. And I'm also on the team as far as a vendor and volunteer coordinator. So if anyone has questions about the Full Disclosure Now conference, it's an incredible disclosure conference. I highly recommend attending. It's going to be at the Sarada Beach Resort in St. Pete Beach this summer. And tickets are on sale now at the fulldisclosurenow.org. And yeah, if you have any questions about the disclosure conference, if you want to be a vendor or speaker or whatnot, you can reach out to me at kate@healingfrombeyond.com as well, and I can put you in direct contact with the organizer of the conference, Brian.
Before we wrap it up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
I would say that there's a lot of craziness going on in the world right now, but know that the light has already won. We have already won. We are heading in the right direction. And everything that you see going on, everything is happening exactly as it should be happening. And to look at life with a beautiful open mind and a beautiful open heart, and just, yeah, there's great things coming. I'm very excited for where everything is heading, where we are heading right now as a society, but the light has already won. And yeah, that's it.
Kate, thank you for your message, and thank
Yes,
you
thank
for
you.
being my guest.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. It's been an honor.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.